Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going on an absolutely fascinating journey. We're going to start way zoomed out, looking at the macroscopic level of our overall human lifespans. And then we're going to dive all the way down into the microscopic, super bustling world of our very own cells. 150. Okay, get this. The very first person to live to 150 years old might actually already be alive, just walking around among us today. I know, right? It sounds totally like science fiction, but it's really not anymore. It is a very real biological mystery that researchers are actively unraveling as we speak. Okay, let's dive into this, because for the longest time, we really just thought of aging like an old car, rusting in the driveway, right? Just this natural, completely unavoidable wearing down of parts over time. But the new scientific paradigm completely flips that on its head. Science is now telling us that aging is actually a targeted biological process. And the best part? It has highly identifiable and, more importantly, manipulatable mechanisms. Section 1. Redefining how we age. You see, scientists aren't just studying how we die anymore. They are intensely focused on how to dramatically slow the aging process itself. I mean, think about Jean Calmette, the French woman who lived to be an astonishing 122 years old. She totally proved what the human body is structurally capable of when conditions are just right. But here is the critical pivot for modern researchers. It's this concept called the compression of morbidity. Basically, our ultimate goal here isn't just extending our total lifespan, it's extending our health span. We want to stay highly functional, energetic, and healthy for a much, much greater proportion of our lives. We're essentially trying to shrink down that period of illness at the very end of life. So we don't just want to add years to our life, we want to add life to our years. Which brings us to Section 2, Inside Your Aging Cells. Now, what's really interesting here is how we look at the primary hallmarks of aging, starting with something called telomeres. So think of your DNA strands like shoelaces. Telomeres are basically those little plastic caps at the ends of your shoelaces that stop them from fraying. But here's the catch. Every single time your cells divide, those plastic caps get just a tiny, tiny bit shorter. And eventually they run out entirely. The shoelace frays and the cell just can't divide healthily anymore. So what exactly happens to a cell when those telomere caps finally run out? Well, it becomes a senescent cell, or as researchers lovingly call them, zombie cells. It's a pretty great name because these are damaged cells that stop dividing, but they refuse to just die. Instead, they linger around, kind of aimlessly wandering your cellular neighborhoods, and they secrete these harmful inflammatory signals that actually damage the perfectly healthy tissues all around them. It's literally like having toxic neighbors on a cellular level. Then we have another major hallmark, the mTR pathway. Now, imagine your cell is a highly productive factory, and mTR is the factory manager. This manager is basically a nutrient sensor. Whenever food is plentiful, the manager is yelling, "Build, grow, produce." But when we suppress this manager, say by fasting for a bit, the factory completely stops producing goods. Instead, it shifts into this deep cleaning, maintenance, and repair mode. And it turns out giving your cellular factory time to deep clean is strongly associated with a significantly longer lifespan. All right, moving on to Section 3, the future of longevity. And this brilliantly illustrates how researchers are actually targeting these microscopic processes right now. We are seeing clinical trials actively testing specific interventions. For example, rapamycin acts as an mTOR inhibitor, literally telling that factory manager we just talked about to trigger repair mode. Then there are senolytics, which are drugs being developed to essentially sweep in and clear out those lingering zombie cells. There's also metformin, a very common diabetes drug that's showing some absolutely remarkable longevity signals. Oh, and we have NAD+ precursors, heavily researched by scientists like David Sinclair at Harvard, aiming to boost overall cellular energy and repair. But you might be wondering, how do we even know if any of this stuff is working? Well, enter the epigenetic Horvath clock. This concept is just incredibly fascinating. Scientists can literally measure your actual biological age now by looking at DNA methylation patterns. They basically read these tiny chemical tags on your DNA and can tell you that structurally inside, your cells might be significantly older or even younger than the number of birthdays you've celebrated. Wild, right? And because of this clock, we are already seeing some aggressive real-world experiments putting all this science to the test. Take Brian Johnson's Blueprint protocol, for example. It is one of the most prominent examples of extreme longevity intervention in action today. We're talking constant full blood panels, a mathematically strict diet, absolute sleep optimization, and literally dozens of precisely timed supplements. He is actively using all this data to try and physically wind back his biological Horvath clock. Let's zoom back out for Section 4, Secrets of the Blue Zones. Now, there are 3 major blue zones I want to highlight here: Sardinia in Italy, Okinawa in Japan, and Loma Linda in California. These are special regions where people regularly and seemingly effortlessly live past 100 years old. In Sardinia, for example, we see centenarians absolutely thriving on specific, long-standing real-world dietary patterns, and they're doing it without a single high-tech biohacking device in sight. So what are their secrets? Well, the common everyday habits across these blue zones include incredibly strong community ties, a deep sense of purpose, a predominantly plant-heavy diet, and very, very low chronic stress. And if you think about this logically, it makes perfect sense. Living a low-stress, highly purposeful life naturally keeps your overall bodily inflammation down. And what does that do? It directly prevents the rapid creation of those microscopic zombie cells and fraying shoelace caps we looked at earlier. It all connects. Let's move to Section 5 and see how this builds into extending your health span. Check this out. Data from the calorie trial shows the massive impact of a 25% calorie reduction on baseline aging biomarkers. Caloric restriction is actually the single most widely replicated finding in all of longevity research, period. Eating less extends lifespan in almost every single organism ever studied. Why? Because it triggers those exact AMPK and mTOR pathways, our cellular factory managers, shifting the body out of continuous growth and into that vital repair and maintenance mode. So the crucial point is this: you do not need a billion-dollar lab to start impacting your cellular age right now. The lifestyle factors with the absolute strongest scientific backing are accessible to almost all of us today. We're talking regular aerobic exercise, consistent strength training, highly prioritized quality sleep, avoiding smoking entirely, and eating a diet that is very low in ultra-processed foods. These everyday actions are quite literally communicating with your DNA and actively preserving your telomere caps. Which leaves us with this final, profound thought. Your biological clock is undeniably ticking, but are you ready to rewind it? The science of living better and longer is advancing so much faster than most people realize, and the real power to influence your own cellular health is increasingly right in your hands. If you want to keep staying ahead of the curve, make sure to hit subscribe. We bring this kind of cutting-edge research directly to you in plain language every single week. Thanks for exploring the incredible science of longevity with me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.